Alrighty, hello everybody. My name is Mr. Amp, and this is move 3 of Magnus Carlsen versus the world in chess 960. Now, Magnus has gone ahead and played f3. Um, don't mind this. That was just me playing a move just to test things out here. But he's played f3, right? Which in our last video I was saying, I would play f4 personally. It's a little more aggro, takes a little more space. Um, Supports kind of e5 in the future, right? Which, by the way, we can't stop actually if he wants to do this. I mean, we could kind of prevent it with things like this, but if he really wanted to put the pawn there, if he wanted to go here and here, he definitely would. It'd be hard to stop him. We'd have to play something like this and this. But anyway, so he's gone and reinforced with f3, which is the more solid move as we discussed. But what he's done, it's twofold, to understand. Is he's reinforced this pawn, he's got a nice little structure here, nice little chain, and he's also opened up his queen to retake this pawn, right? So if you remember, we captured here, so we're actually up a pawn for now. I don't think we're going to be able to maintain that for too long, and here's why. We have, if we want to defend this pawn, which I would say we do, there's only three moves: c5, knight c6, or bishop c5. Now, of those three, my least favorite, I think, is bishop c5. And that's because, after this, we kind of just allow him to play knight b3, which I think he wants to play anyway, right? Because, say, here, this is natural because we both developed a knight to control this square. So to me, in my mind, he already wants to play knight b3. If we go bishop here, he has even more incentive to do something he already wanted to do, because after this, we've actually wasted a tempo to where he could just take here. And you'll notice, like, oh, no, he can't. He's pinned to the queen, right? But how do we punish that? I mean, if we had an e-pawn, it'd be great to just do this. And we're like, okay, yeah, your knight's under a lot of stress here. It's about to get captured by a pawn. But there is no e-pawn, and if this, then he covers, and he's totally fine. There's not after that. After we get here, there's no piece we could add to the attack. So he's actually perfectly covered. If we do a big exchange here, which I wouldn't want to do, I'd recommend against it. Then we get this, and his queen's in the middle, and we've gotten back to net zero development, as opposed to his three moves. So we gave him three moves essentially for free. And so we don't want that, right? And that's why bishop's kind of the worst of these options. And you're like, all right, well, what if we let him slide? What if we let him take the bishop? We could play either this or this. We don't want to defend with the knight, because I mean, first of all, that's just like, come on, that's just not it. And even if his light squared bishop wasn't there, knight on the end here is not the method, because again, he's really just looking at the pawn. He wants the pawn, to be honest. So not the method there, at least for the knights. If we defend with either the pawns, this pawn here, and I mean, double pawns. When is that ever good? Maybe if he lets us, we can get the box, right? But I mean, we made a meme, but I mean, there's no real point to that. Plus, he's not going to let us do that anyways. So I don't think doubled pawns is good. And if you're like, okay, Xander, you're ignoring the d pawn, well, here and then here, yeah, we do, kind of block the queen, right? The queen's looking into a pawn chain now, but it's Magnus, and I really, wouldn't be surprised to see this. See the B pawn swing in, looking scary on the king side, but yeah, you can just straight up go for it, and then something like here and then here, and yeah, you're just getting a little crazy. I mean, there's a lot of options here, and this is a complicated position already. It's kind of closed-ish, at least on the dark squares, right? Light squares are popping, at least for him. We've got slightly less options. We do have this, which is actually quite nice, um, but he could block either of his bishops. He can go here, like this might even be winning for us. But it's still a little crazy. And again, even if all of that weren't going to transpire, even if he just goes here and then decides, maybe he's just going to go like here and then say this and then maybe this and then, we're going to develop normally. Like, okay, we've stopped his initial idea of retaking this pawn here. But I think even still, if not, the B pawn's kind of crazy. The B pawn's a pretty wild throw out there. But I think pretty likely the C pawn here, because if takes, of course, he gets the knight out. If not takes, then he could go ahead and do this pretty safely, and then gets the bishop out. We don't have our bishop anymore to come here and defend that, and so he's gonna get this back. I think that's probably what's gonna happen if we choose to defend our bishop in this situation. So I think we've covered pretty much every line involving with this bishop move here, and so not the method, not what I'm hoping for. So what have I done? What happened? Okay, so for some reason now it's on like black to move. That's really weird. Did I mess this up? I think I might have messed this up. We're gonna have to just kind of visualize this. So or no, wait. Talking about, yeah, it is our move. Okay, what am I on? Anyway, so yeah, we cover bishop here. Pawn here is an option. And then there's the extremist b4. There's the slightly less extremist c3. There's the crazy extremist doing both at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but one after the other. Yeah, I mean, it's great that we've stopped this, but it's not like he's permanently devastated. Now he has no ideas. I think here, knight, here, 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 and then, I mean, could do a little reroute activity here like that, and that. I mean, like this is just what I see kind of as like from a blitz perspective. Like if you want to maximize the pressure on this pawn, that's what I would do if I was white. Including that extra 2-move reroute with this knight here, but yeah, I just gotta be real here. I think a lot can go wrong with this pawn move. I think if he just wants to let us go with that, he kind of can. He's challenging us to sort of play this Dutch defense-ish structure. And if he acts normally, follow some regular ideas here, this, and then the here, even if we get like all the way here, pretend we castle, because for some reason the analysis won't let me castle this way. Maybe that's an option I just didn't select, but if we castle, then like we look really beefy on this side. And that's that's him wasting like 3 or 4 moves. So but he's still got pawns he could launch at us and just start chipping away at this position of ours. So I would say pawn out is my second choice. Obviously we refuted the bishop coming out. The pawn coming out is it's I think maybe a little better. But I don't think it's the best choice, and I think the best choice is just the knight here. It's plain, it's simple, And I think maybe the red flags that are going up is if he, plays bishop e5. Um, what from there? Well, there's a couple of options. We could just accept that he's going to take the knight and go like bishop here. Which he probably won't take the knight, to be truthful, because there's nothing really inspiring him to if we play this. If we were to completely ignore the threat, then bishop here, here, and queen takes this with the check. Like, yeah, that's not great. You also can't block with either of these two pieces because of this. Well, actually, having a look at that, yeah, he just moves the queen, and even if he just goes back. So yeah, there you can't really do that. Can't block with either the bishop or the knight, the dark squared bishop or the knight. So you gotta block with the light squared bishop there. That's kind of like a forced move. We only have one choice. And then queen can't really go here to threaten this pawn, so maybe the queen just hangs out there for now, and we get some development like this, or this, or this, or this. Like, him not having the d pawn, after this check, he could just kind of move his knight out here, and that's a good-looking knight. And this knight's going to come here in a sec, so we got to play like f6, which is, a pretty nice move. But then he just does normal things, and he looks better. He has more space. And we've got doubled c pawns, which is not awesome. So, what are we thinking then? We got to deal with the threat, obviously. So yeah, again, bishop out here. Besides that, I mean, we could give the pawn up again, which this isn't a pin by any means. So he would have to take first, get our bishop, on this nice diagonal. It is looking into a pawn chain, unfortunately, but maybe we could try and shake that up with things like this and this. Maybe even this at some point after, like, maybe that and that. I don't know. But the problem here though is that, like, if you want to do a quick castle, we got to put our knight here because you can't put it there, and you don't really want to put it there blocking your bishop. So say we go like knight b6 and then castle. He's going to follow regular development too. I think if we open it up kind of in this way specifically, it's kind of clearer to him, or rather he has more options for instinctive, principled development of his minor pieces, really, than we do. And also it's going to take us an extra move to get our queen out, by the way. So, not really great there. And it's kind of unfortunate because, I do think that the knight out is the best move, but I think being Magnus, like, who really beyond, my elo, is just gonna do that, even if we kind of give it up. Excuse me. Even if we give it up, yeah, he won the pawn back, but he did technically. I mean, he did just straight up trade a bishop for a knight. I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think that's, like, really the method for him. Just to win this pawn back, like, he wouldn't let us have his bishop just to win a pawn back. Like, you can be pretty confident you're going to win this pawn back eventually. It might just take an extra few moves. He's just going to practice some delayed gratification here. So, I think we already saw what I think really is this. And what knight b3 does is it adds another attack to this pawn, but it also prevents this bishop move, right? Prevents this bishop move entirely. Just hangs the bishop. So, and because of that, like, our bishops are, it would be our second defender to this pawn. With removing this option to add the bishop to the attack, or to the defense, I should say, he actually just, from this point on, makes it clear that he is winning back this pawn. There's nothing else we could do. We can't move the c pawn in anymore, and if you really want to fight me on the c pawn here as opposed to moving the knight in, you can. I could definitely see an argument for the c5, and honestly, if I was in a blitz game with this position, I probably would play c5, just because it kind of forces them to get a little more creative with how they approach winning the pawns back, or winning the one pawn back, or trading off some pawns. But just, like, fundamentally, man, gotta have a bias. Gotta have bias towards knight c6, right? And yeah, so here, right, and what we're gonna end up with uh, after this is we're gonna have to, we're gonna be in a pretty open situation where we have basically infinite options. And I think this is extremely likely. Because again, covering here, like, yeah, he's not gonna bring the bishop here. There's no point to that. This, I would say, is probably best. I would also have a look at this, but then this, and then this anyway. That's kind of like almost a move order thing in a way. Um, but if we do the mass trade right, we get, again, he's got his queen in the center, and he's got 3 moves of development as opposed to our 0 now. So probably not. At least we don't want to initiate that mass trade in the center, and then say, if we ignore it, he takes here, 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 or if we want to be, if we want to make a little meme here, we get the box again. Honestly, not great either way it rolls, I think, with that for us. So, but I think probably more accurate, more pressing, for for the sake of move order, just not letting this bishop come in. But, like I said, that does give us kind of a free move because we've already kind of resigned to the fact that he's going to win that pawn back. So it kind of, it gives us a ton of options. Now we're like, all right, cool. We've basically got a move to play around with. We could do, all of these things. Here, maybe even there, here. A lot of choices, plenty of choices if this were to happen. I think this is highly likely. Highly likely, because, of course, he wants to win this back. We want to defend it, and the quickest way for him to win that back, without a doubt, essentially, and with minimal trading pieces off, because, again, he's white, he wants to win, so he's probably going to want to trade off as little as possible, unless it gives him, of course, a definite advantage. I think this is the fastest way to do that, because allowing us to put our bishop in as a defender just allows us to trade off one more piece. Which, again, this position isn't great for us, but material's technically even. So, and we've traded off an extra piece. So I think he's going to want to trade off as little as possible. He's going to want to be as efficient as possible. And so, even though this is probably like number 1 move and then number 2 move, but obviously, for him, number 1, he is number 1, so it's what he's going to find. And then he's going to win this pawn back, and then it's up to kind of us really to choose whether we want to take back and let his queen be in the middle, or let him take, maybe double our pawns, or I guess we could move the d pawn and then cover with the bishop. That'd be up for us to decide. But I think here, really tough call, personally, between this and this. Makes it easier knowing that this isn't a good move, just from this, essentially, because it costs us a tempo immediately. But yeah, I think a lot of room for debate kind of between these two options. And there's going to be some people that are like, oh, don't worry about defending it anyway. But again, you give the queen the center. And it's kind of tough because, you know, if we assume he directly takes, then we're like, okay, cool, we can develop our knight with a tempo. But even if we just completely let him have this pawn, I think he might just straight up still do this. Because he probably wants to put the knight here as opposed to the queen, because the queen's going to be more of a high value target. Getting the queen in the middle this early in the game isn't something that anyone at a high elo is going to do. So I would say knight. Some are going to say pawn. Knight just looks better to me, looks more fundamental, looks more solid, but it can go either way. And I think after that, after, we'll just do this for the sake of the argument. After this, right, we could have this or this. Well, okay, excuse me, not the knight. This or this, I mean. And then, shoot, maybe even b6. Like, it just gets crazy. It gets freaky, and you don't want to get crazy and freaky with Magnus Carlsen, because he's just gonna cook up some crazier things than we can. So I'd rather just play it solid, play it calm, bring the knight in, and then most likely response is b3. We'll see. Could shake it up again. He could surprise us, but I think just the safe pick, the calm pick is this. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward episode. Not too much to look at, but still a good couple of lines that we had to analyze. And good work, putting into kind of having a look at this move and also refuting it. I think if you could track that logic of seeing like why this isn't preferable, then yeah, I mean that's learning, that's improvement right there, and that's really what this is all about. It's fun, works your brain. Um, it's all good stuff. So I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate it.